Hello and welcome to Grumpy Old Crone, where I am not going to be whinging about things that don't matter for half an hour. I am going to be talking for 10 minutes about something that matters very, very much. So forgive me. If you were looking for something funny, there's time to go off and find it yet. And this video is probably not it. So, yeah. Grumpy Old Crone gets serious for a minute. I've said from the beginning of this channel that I didn't want it to be a political space. There are a lot of really great political spaces on YouTube, and I don't think that I am nearly well informed enough to add anything to that overall discussion. But this video is going to be one of those situations where I changed my mind just a tiny little bit though, so sorry about that. Like almost anyone with access to media of any kind over the last few days, I have been watching the transfer of power to the political extreme right and wondering what this means for everyone. As is patently obvious, I'm not American. I do, however, have a lot of friends and found family in the US, many of them in right-wing states, many of them living their lives and bodies in situations that the new administration hates. And frankly, I'm scared for the people I love. I was making a cup of tea just now, and I was thinking about how the archetype of witch fits into this new world order. And I stopped as I realised something that rang like a bell right in the middle of me. I have always thought that witchcraft is the last resort of the powerless and the disenfranchised. It's what you turn to when all hope is gone. It was the herbal treatments when you couldn't afford a doctor. It was the hex on the master of the house when he abused the maids and left them pregnant and jobless and homeless. It was the charm to change the weather when the crops were threatened and starvation loomed. It was where you turned when there was no one else. Just the good wife in the cottage at the edge of the village with a reputation and a few cats who'd put on the kettle and listen as you cried. Or her equivalent in any culture you care to name throughout history. We have always been needed. The cunning man who fashioned a charm from old paper and ink that made you feel better, even though you didn't know why. To the voodoo priestess summoning Loa for a stolen diaspora. We have always been here because there has always been a need. And now that need is greater than ever. Pagans and witches have been hated and feared by the mainstream society for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But, to paraphrase the amazing and inspirational Maya Angelou, still we rise. We know things that are valuable. How to make communities, how to spot hatred, how to heal and how to harm. Ours are the quiet, wild ways that run deep and hard, like granite beneath the soil's soft skin. And the world needs the things that we know, and it is our sacred duty to pass them on. Grow something if you can. If you can grow a lot of it, pass some of it on to those who can't afford their own or don't have space to grow it. If you have excess anything, distribute it. Learn to can food so that you can have food to last if there's no power, or you can't afford power, or you need to give it to people who can't afford power or refrigeration for fresh food of their own. Take a course on herbalism if you can afford it. Buy a book on herbalism if you can't. Borrow one from the library if you can't afford to buy one. Study and learn how to do the simple no harm stuff. Learn what is helpful to grow and what you can collect from the environment around you. Even if you live in a city, there are still hundreds of things growing everywhere around you. I've got a couple of YouTube shorts on witchcraft weeds that might be worth looking at. I'll do some more as soon as spring gets going and things are growing again. I'll get out and get it done. Learn how to forage. Buy local when you have to buy at all. Oligarchs have proven time and time again that they don't care about us as anything other than a cog in their wealth-making machine. Don't be a fucking cog. Don't be their cog. Learn to mend things. That is the single most radical thing you can do. It is also an act of utmost reverence for Mother Earth. Don't use more resources than you need to. Live lightly and find joy in the things that you already have. Except books, obviously. Always buy more books because, well, books. Okay, lots of books. If you can't afford books, make sure that you use your local library. There are so few free resources available for people these days, and libraries are one of the most precious ones that remain. Support them, attend their programs. Don't let them get shut down if you can possibly help it. Oppressors want their victims to be ignorant because uninformed people are easy to manipulate. Don't let them manipulate you. And if people in your community need help, help them. Affix your own oxygen mask first, obviously, but once you have done that, help them. At the end of the day, all we have is each other, and we need to hold each other up. Historically, this is the path of the witch, offering hope to the hopeless. Forget the polyester cloaks or the Amazon-bought statues of goddesses and half-hundredweight of attractive crystals. All that stuff is set dressing, and lovely though it might be, none of it will help you in this right-wing totalitarian nightmare that we find ourselves living in. Well, throwing a few crystals at billionaires may well make you feel better, potentially, but it does seem like an unlikely form of therapy in the long term. Our ancestors didn't have fancy ritual clothes, statuary and posh athames from witchesareus.com. We don't need them either. If you're reading this, suddenly realising that actually I'm a big fat old lefty and being horrified by that, then yeah, I am. I'm not going to apologise. I don't know if there's a right-wing witch space out there in YouTube, but if there is, then anyone angry at me right now might be way happier there. Because I am inordinately proud to say that I have friends of all different colours and nationalities. I have family and friends who identify with every single letter in LGBTQIA, and even a couple with a little plus as well. Whilst I am most definitely not a Christian myself, I do admire the message of Yeshua ben Miriam, and I am being appalled at what it's being twisted into. I fully expect my subscriber numbers to start dropping through the floor now, and honestly, I'm fine with that. As many notable people have said, but none better than Pete Seeger, I feel, to everything there is a season. This is a time to build our resilient communities and make sure that the protective walls around them are high and strong. And to those of you living slap bang in the middle of this nightmare, I see you. And I am so fucking sorry. I know that you probably feel scared and alone right now, but you are not. There are thousands, millions of us out here, lighting our candles and pissing in our jars. You are not alone. You were never alone, and you will not be alone going forwards. Blessed be, my friends.